There were two rules in the Outer Rim auctions. Never bid on unscanned cargo. Never under any circumstances. Trust a deal that's too good to be true. Tavion Cross. Broke both. The bidding was fierce that day in the dry red auction sands of Antares Delta. Tavion, a retired Terran Scout Corps engineer, had little left but dreams, a few credits, and an ache to disappear among the stars. He hadn't come to buy anything spectacular, just something that could fly. Then Lot 934 was wheeled out, a battered freighter-class Corvette with burned scars across her hull. The AI system was locked. No data logs, no interior scans, no engine. Diagnostics just a note on the auction manifest. Salvaged from derelict, power core stable. Most bidders turned their backs immediately, but Tavion's gut whispered something different. The ship's hull carried old military plating, but beneath the rust and grime, she looked like she had once been beautiful. He raised his hand. 500 credits. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The auctioneer blinked, surprised, but hammered the seal down hard. Sold. That night, Tavion stared at the freighter under the cracked moonlight of Antares. A ship was a home. Ship. It was a start. He'd done crazier things in the war, but something about this felt fated. He pried open the access hatch manually. The power flickered on just long enough for the auxiliary lights to hum to life. Tavion stepped inside the cold darkness boots, echoing on metal floors, and then he saw her. She was curled in a cryopod, breathing barely. Her skin shimmered, a pale, translucent lavender, like starlight filtered through silk. Delicate ridges adorned her temple. Her long white hair spilled like moonlight over the edge of the pod. He didn't move for a full minute. Then the pod let out a hiss, and the woman inside gasped. Tavin lunged to grab the medkit. "Easy," he whispered, kneeling. "You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." Eyes snapped open, silver pools with no pupils, glowing faintly. She whispered in a voice like wind through glass. "You purchased this vessel?" "Yeah." "Just today?" Tavion looked around. "Didn't know it came with, passengers." She tilted her head, confused. "Then you have purchased me as well. By bond code, you are my mate." Tavion's heart jumped sideways. "Wait." She sat up slowly, gripping his arm to balance herself. "This ship was my escape from the House of Isvar. My stasis pod was encoded into the master registry. Whoever buys the vessel inherits my servitude. And by my people's law, marriage." Tavion stared at her. "You mean to tell me I just married an alien princess?" Her eyes narrowed. "Not princess. Strategic bride-class genetic ascendant, but yes." A distant rumble echoed across the canyon. The ship's warning lights blinked red. Tavion spun toward the console. Incoming scan. "Somebody just pinged us." The alien woman stood, already regaining her strength. "They found me. We must flee." "Great," Tavion muttered, strapping himself into the pilot chair. "First day of marriage, and we're already being hunted." She slid into the co-pilot seat beside him with eerie grace. "What's your name?" he asked as the engines roared to life. She looked at him calmly. "Zerael." "Tavion Cross," he said, gripping the throttle. She nodded. Then together, Tavion Cross. "We run, or we die." The ship blasted skyward, flames, screaming from rusted engines, and so began the strangest and most dangerous honeymoon in the galaxy. The controls fought him like a wild animal. Tavion gritted his teeth, pulling hard on the side yoke as the battered Corvette screamed through Antares Delta's upper atmosphere. The heat shields, patched with barely functional plating, held just barely. Zerael sat next to him, hands dancing over the alien co-pilot interface. Her glowing eyes fixed on the threat indicator flashing red. "They're deploying interceptors," she said calmly, as if noting the weather. "I noticed," Tavion growled. Flipping toggles and slamming the main thruster into overburn. The ship jolted, throwing sparks behind them as a swarm of sleek black arrowhead fighters burst from orbit, hunting them like wolves. Zerael reached out and grabbed his forearm, her grip unexpectedly strong. Divert power from secondary life support to shields. You must trust me. That'll leave the engine room oxygen-starved. We'll survive. They won't if we get out of this." Tavian hesitated half a heartbeat, then did as she said. The ship surged forward, temporarily shielded as an energy web flared around them. A blast from the nearest interceptor slammed into their port side, but this time the hull held. Zarali smiled for the first time, sharp and satisfied. "You're good at this," Tavian said through labored breaths. "Was trained for war," she replied. Marriage was simply the sentence that followed failure. Tavian stole a glance at her. "You really think this is a marriage?" Her expression didn't change. "My people's law, it is binding. But the heart has its own rules, Terran." The moment cracked when another missile shrieked past. Tavian rolled the ship into a narrow canyon cleft below, hugging the rocks so tight the outer hull scraped dust from the stones. The enemy ships peeled off, unwilling to follow into such tight quarters. Inside the cockpit, the silence stretched. Zaral's eyes never left him. "You risk your life for me even now," she said. "Why?" "Because I didn't sign up to own anyone. I just wanted a ship. And now you have both. Lucky me." They shared a quiet breath before Zarali turned back to the controls. "There's an outpost near the Hell's Drift. Abandoned mining facility. If we make it, we can rearm. Maybe even find allies." Tavia nodded. "Punch in the coordinates. We'll lay low and figure out what the hell is going on." As Zarali programmed the route, her hand brushed his. It's not by accident. The ship soared into the dusty blue horizon, trailing smoke, heat, and something else, something uncertain. Neither of them spoke for a long time, but in that silence, something shifted. Trust. Maybe more. And behind them, the shadows of the Viren fleet were closing in. Ask ChatGPT. Smoke rose from the fractured earth as Tavian and Zarali crouched inside the collapsed remains of a digger station nestled in the rocky gulch. He pressed his back against a rusted beam, blood trickling from a gash across his shoulder. Zarali knelt in front of him, her fingers glowing faintly as she touched the wound with deliberate care. The alien biogel hissed on contact, sealing flesh and nerve alike. "You should rest," brushing a lock of hair from his brow. "You took the brunt of that explosion." "I'll rest when we're not being hunted," Tavian said, wincing as the gel took effect. "Nice throw, by the way." That mind charge really cleared the tunnel. Zarali's lips quirked in the ghost of a smile. "You shielded me when it detonated. I do not forget such things." They had barely escaped the last ambush, their attackers closing in faster each day. The moment word had spread that the cheap auction ship housed the last daughter of House Valtha, exiled royal blood of a once mighty alien empire bounty. Hunters and warlords had descended like carrion. Tavan wiped his blade clean. "They'll come again tonight, and tomorrow. They won't stop." "No," she agreed, "but neither will I." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. For a woman once auctioned off as a marriage clause, she radiated quiet authority. Tavian had seen it in the way she moved, the way she made plans under fire, the way her touch steadied him. They were no longer just man and alien, they were comrades, partners more. He couldn't shake the memory of the night before when she had stood before the engine's flickering blue glow, asking him if the stars on Earth truly moved in songs. Her voice had trembled, not with fear. "With hope, Tavian," she said. Now, her hand lingering on his chest, "If we do not make it to Hela's Drift, I need you to know. I chose you, not the ship, not the escape. You." He blinked. "That's a hell of a thing to say, while we're hiding in rubble." "You joke," she said, leaning in closer. "But I've studied your kind. You risk your lives for love. More often than logic, and I want to understand that." Tavian reached up, covering her hand with his. "Then stick with me. Let's give them a reason to regret selling you short." Outside, bootsteps crunched across gravel. Zarali's eyes narrowed. "They found us." Tavian rose, sword in hand, his pulse steady. "Then let's show them what a cheap ship couple can really do." She drew her curved blade, her silver hair catching the low moonlight. Together they slipped into the shadows, two fugitives, bound by fate, fighting not just for freedom, but for each other. The night blazed with fire. Tavian's boots pounded over the gravel as plasma bolts sliced the air beside him. Behind him, Zerali moved like liquid war, her curved blade flashing in the moonlight, deflecting a shot straight back into the skull of the bounty hunter who fired it. They had reached the valley rim, where their ship, a battered Auction 1 cargo cruiser named Star Sparrow, waited in sleep mode. Its outer hull was scorched and dented, but it still held the one thing no enemy could match: their resolve. A hulking warbeast lunged from the shadows, claws like razors. Tavian rolled beneath its swing and drove his plasma dagger into its throat. Sparks erupted. Blood hissed. He turned in time to see Zerli drive her blade into a mercenary's gut, then twist, her face emotionless. More were coming. Dozens. Zerli stumbled beside him, clutching her side. There are too many. Tavian wrapped his arm around her waist. That never stopped us before. They reached the ship's ramp, ducking another volley of fire. The ramp began to lower too slowly. Tavian shoved Zerali forward. Go, she hesitated. Zerali, please. But she didn't run. Instead, she whirled and threw a grenade back down the path. The explosion lit up the night, shaking the very stone. Then she turned to him. I told you. I chose you. Inside the ship, Tavian sealed the door and activated the engines. The vessel groaned, metal protesting like a beast awakening from slumber. Systems flickered. Shields sputtered too. Life. As enemy ships loomed overhead, Tavian and Zerali worked side by side, dodging bursts and rerouting power. The cockpit was tight, the controls ancient, but Zerali's fingers moved with surgical grace. She adjusted frequencies, disabling a lock-on. Tavian pulled hard on the thrusters. We're not going to make it out of the atmosphere unless I know, she said, pressing a final button. Diverting core overdrive. It'll fry the nav. But it'll bias the sky. He looked at... Hareli looked, hair wild, eyes fierce, Almar cracked and bloodied. And still, she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. I didn't just buy a ship at that auction, he whispered. I found my reason. Zerali smiled faintly. Then don't let go of it. The engines roared. Star Sparrow screamed. Into the sky, leaving the chaos behind. Later, as silence returned and the stars cradled them in peace, Tavian found her curled near the observation deck, staring into the cosmos. They'll come again, she said softly. Let them, Tavian replied, because this time we face them as one.